do the trick. Now we sit back and wait for people to turn up. Stream it and they will come. Unless it's something really boring. But even then they'll come. Where are the people? I don't know if YouTube's been slow here or not, but don't seem to be having any activities. Oh, no, Barry's here. Hey, Barry. Seems like the internet's a little slower today. Normally I see people within about a half a minute, but that took, well, close to 2 minutes before anyone showed up. Slackness. Andrew, Optimize, Stuart, Byron, Steve. Okay, I'm just looking for the cap for this. I should change over to the big disc combo. There we go. It's frustrating when I can't find the tweezer caps, because you know that this is just gonna, these are my favorite type tweezers. You know that if you leave that line around somewhere, the tips are gonna go from looking like that to looking like that. Hey Pionov, Damaras, you rearrange the screens. Not really, I've just simply added, I've always had two frontal full-size screens. I've had the one that has nothing on it other than just the camera, and then I have this one that you're looking at now, which has a little bit more information on it, which sometimes is useful when you're talking about something and it's more of a secondary thing to see what's going on the bench than it is to bask in the glow of my glorious looks. And with that admission to the universe, it gave me my tweezer caps. Superb. Can't sleep? No, just been delayed tonight, that's all. Okay. Alright, so this board has come in and it's a rework board. It's had someone else working on it. You may or not be able to, you can see all the flux sheen all over it. Supposedly it's not charging properly. It's a bit of an intermittent thing where it will maybe start up if you do an SMC reset, but then it doesn't want to continue on after that. If you power cycle it but keep the battery connected, it's misbehaving. And as far as I can tell, based on the flux, pretty much everything's been replaced or moved. Like the SMC has, TPS has, ISL has, anything and everything that can be moved around probably has been. And this is a 165 board, which reminds me I need to bring up the code for this. Let's see, 366. Oh, we're already ahead of myself. Hey, Basil, Insider, Ed, Andre, look. Anyway, the first point of call on this for me is the DC inboard connector here. Now it looks like it's been replaced, but there are issues with that replacement, and so I'm not going to really try and fix those issues. I'm basically just going to try and replace the connector in this case. Hey Nelson, the first thing is that the plastic has deformed, so it's not sitting flat, so when you plug in the flex it sits a little bit proud. The camera connector thing, not a major issue, a little bit unfortunate, but not a major issue. The real problem, however, is when you zoom down to the floor. We can just see that, yep. As expected, there's all these pins here are just free floating. That one's not, but that's a free floater, that's free floating. So there's a whole bunch of them free floating, and I suspect that could be why it's misbehaving with the strange resets and SMC behaviors. And because it has got this damage on the top, that's why I'm not going to bother trying to reflow this or fix up those connections, because as far as I'm concerned, this connector is already damaged. Hey Steve, wet Plymouth. And I can see that they have reheated it to get that connector on by reheating it from the bottom here. So these two little nubs, they're supposed to be nice little silicon blobs like this sort of thing, but instead they look like they've been for a summer trip to crematoria and they got left outside for too long. Hopefully the RAM has not been damaged. All we can do is take the connector off, put a new one on, and hopefully it'll be okay. So there must have been a fair whack of corrosion damage or something going on here to cause this. Now we're going to take it off just using hot air over the top. I've done this before. Few of you might have seen me do it. It's just a game of patience. Don't rush it. Use plenty of flux and you'll be okay. The key is not to rush it. The key is to accept that it's going to take a while for the board to heat up, but it will get there. Hey ZX, how's it going? And that is almost Lewis Rossmann levels of flux. I feel rather dirty about that, but sometimes you just got to do these things. Yeah, Jason, I haven't had a chance to look at the video yet. I've been busy with a lot of things today, but I was very pleased to see that he finally made it. He messaged me when he uploaded it to let me know, but I haven't been a very good supporter and jumped in to have a look at it. Certainly getting this off, I don't have to be as careful, but I will try my best to not mess with it anyway. It's good practice to just try and remove it without doing any damage, so you can get a feel for what the hot air is doing. Make sure you don't melt any of the plastic. I don't know what solder they have used, so that's going to be fun. Okay, it's starting to flow, so it's probably lead-free. Leaded. I always get that mixed up for some reason. Okay, at this point I can start grabbing onto the connector. There we go. Hey Richard, you couldn't use the flex board using an iPhone 8 file. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem that no one's got a solution for. ZXW does tend to have a superior market position there, and it's a problem that does keep me up a little bit at night. As I've said a few times in previous videos, I am worried that the new MacBooks are going to end up being released by the department that handles the iPhones, which means that places like ZXW are going to be the ones who will hold the keys to everybody getting access to those data files, and I don't like that one bit. It disturbs the inner capitalist in me. Okay, let's be real, there's no inner capitalist in me, I'm just a capitalist, and it's on the outside. Because I know this is looking really grungy, and it's it's the wrong tip by far to be doing this with, but okay, that trace there gives me concern. That's 342, I think. Placed a charge port on a Lenovo X230 a few days back. a refreshing to repair machine that was designed was repairing my, what, did they have a daughter board type connector on that one? Personally, I don't mind if they come with those connectors soldered on. It just means more work for me. One thing I have found, yeah, we're talking about dull, Andrew, is that when leaded solder goes through the ultrasonic, it comes out quite dull, but the unleaded stays quite bright. That's kind of weird. I suspect it's to do with the cleaning solution, the alkalinity of it. It's probably, reacting a little bit with the lead. Okay, we've got a few pins drifting off there. That's a bit of a danger sign. Now I need this as flat as I can get. Yeah, that pad is definitely wanting to lift. So this one here is wanting to lift, and I do not want to lose that because that goes straight into a via through the board. And I'm not sure where it comes out, so I really do not want to lose that. In fact, I'm not even going to mess with that, even though it is a little bit crooked. And this, what's happened here? I wonder if it's taken it through to the other side. It's weird, it almost looks like it... It's almost look like there's a wire going... Let's have a better look at it. Well, can't quite make heads and tails of this. I suspect maybe, given the thickness of this trace, the power will be coming in at this point or going out at that point. And then there's a via here taking it off to somewhere else that wants it. So worst case scenario, wherever this is going, we can just tap off this fat trace and find somewhere else. But it looks like it is intact. So now what we've got to do is get a replacement connector and put it on. Not soldered, connected to the motherboard, charge port secured by a bracket. Okay, yeah, right. Like I said, I like the soldered ones because it means more money for me. So this one looks nice and viable. I don't believe that is the one line. I'm pretty sure that's a 342 or something. Let's see, we'll have a look. So what is that? That's the second one above the first major ground, which will be this. Yeah, it's 342. PP bus. Well, not PP bus. PP342 G3 hot. Hey Israel. LS. We'll just put that to the side. So there's two ways I can extract this. Obviously the one way is you can do it, just heat up from the bottom. If you heat up from the bottom, you boil the flux away. You do destroy these parts a little bit. This is what those nubs should look like. It can get quite tricky because we are dealing with leaded solder. And it's a lot of heat, but I said leaded solder. Pretty much whenever I say leaded solder, I actually mean unleaded. When I say unleaded, or lead-free rather, I mean leaded. But does that mean I'm saying it in reverse now, or does that mean not reverse? Oh, how the brain can get messed up. Well, we'll try off the edge of the bench and see how we go. Like I said, not a huge fan of doing this technique. It produces a lot of smoke. It's a lot of heat. It does damage to parts that are on the underside of the board. It's just not my favorite. Okay, where's my workshop clamp? Get here. Let's see. Looks pretty good. More than anything, I hate the smoke, the flux burning off and things like that. And then, because you are heating the underside so aggressively, it does probably produce some other undesirable volatiles. Might take that camera connector while I'm at it. I mean, my fume extractor is good, but it's still not good enough to keep that fully captured. To be able to do that and keep things fully captured, you pretty much need to have a fully enclosed, like, chemistry fume hood. The other way I probably could have done it, in fact the way I probably should have done it, is to actually have the board sitting up on the vertical like this, and then, well, rather like this, have the hot air on this side, and then just, lift it off. I should have done it that way. Wasn't thinking. Now, I'm not likely going to use the camera connector, but I took the camera connector off as just in case something goes horribly wrong, and then at least I don't have to, go back to that board and do it again. Of course, naturally it's covered in flux. Hey Jose, how's it going? There's a lump in the board just there. That lump is a piece of SMC edge bonding. Okay. Do you like your punishment block? Oh, the thumb screw thing? You're talking about, you're talking about this thing? Yeah. It's great stuff. I use it to punish iPhones that have decided they want to get a little bit bent. So, stick them in there and tighten down the wing nuts on them. It makes them scream. What temps did you use to not melt that connector? Horsed on the back side of the board. If you're doing like the opposing side heat, you can just use 460 and full air, because there's no direct air contact on the part, so it doesn't tend to melt away the edges or anything like that. So it's just simply a case of the board gets hot enough that the solder melts. If you're doing it from above, then I'm still using 460, but I'll drop back to about 80 air and keep my distance back and just wait for it to heat up. Most of the time when you make connectors melt, pardon me, it's usually because the air is hitting the corners too much, and so you get a focus of the heat, and that's why they start melting like that. So if you can sort of go easy with the amount of air hitting the edges and the corners, then you can still do a direct hot air on it and get it to sit down again. Flower pressing, I used to do that. I've got a few books in the shed that have got flowers from 20-30 years ago still. I know, it sounds a little weird, but it's sometimes something to do. Naturally you pick up a cat hair. The only downside with all that flux, yeah. I might put this through the ultrasonic temp quickly. Just get some hot air onto it, get that flux warmed up. Hey Ray, and you guys have to put up with some nasty ASMR. Come on, you can do it. Let's do 30 seconds of this. I gave you a warning. That's pretty damn good for 30 seconds. Hey Tony W. Hey sweetie. Nice to see you, my love. Wasn't expecting you to turn up. Is everything okay? Hey Warren. Oh, I think something of yours arrived today, I think. Oh, the fuses, Warren, the fuses. Yeah. There we go. Alright, so that's a pretty looking connector now. There's a little bit of excess solder on the underside there. We'll just quickly clean that up, so it doesn't cause the connector to float up a little higher than what it should be. This can get a little bit tricky, I will admit though. And annoyingly I've got to put more flux down. Just after we washed all that annoying flux off, we stick more on it. the way it goes sometimes. I think that's pretty good. Oh, actually there's a sneaky one down the bottom here. Sneaking? Yeah, Ray, I've heard about the bricking thing. It's pretty much everywhere now anyway. I gotta wonder, are these polarized? I don't think they are, but I always forget to check. I'll just get another one and have a look. Ew, flux on my fingers. Well, the HR is at the bottom anyway, so we'll go with that. Which is what we've got here, the HR, whatever it is. Alright, at this point we basically just try and solder it down. The hardest bit on this, of course, is getting those pins just on the other side of the camera connector. That's normal. That's why it's good to have the micro pencil. What's the black blob in the connector you're talking about up here? That's just a bit of flux. First couple are obviously it's a fairly delicate starting process. Again, I'm not worried about the connections being perfect right now. I just want to tack the whole thing down, and then once you're tacked in about 4 places, you can get on with doing the reflow properly. I should say we're not actually going to reflow it, we're just soldering it. Okay, it actually feels like it's floating up a little bit, so I'm just going to give it a little itty bit of pressure and get it to sit down. Alright, we're on our way now. So basically we just have to manually solder every connection here. Fortunately, with things like this micro pencil soldering tip, it's not a major drama. The only time you really run into dramas with the micro pencil is if you run out of thermal capacity on the... Okay, that may have to be separated, those two. This is the tricky spot, of course, because we've got the connector in the way. So you can't quite get your angle that you want. Usually I tend to bring in the hot air assist, and that allows me to... Sometimes I get dirty and I just throw some solder paste down there and hit it with the reflow. Leader Bell was just at the window watching me. Now, if you're looking at these connections and thinking, man, they are not good connections, you'll be absolutely right. I just want to get the solder onto them, and then I can throw some flux down. And once the flux is down, I can then come back with some assistive hot air and tack them properly. Yeah, a bit of corrosion there, damn. Okay, yeah, that's a bit of a solder bridge. So yeah, it definitely looks very ugly. If you do solder connections this bad by default, then probably find another industry. I'm only letting them be this bad because I know that I'm going to fix it later. With magic. Haha. I think I'll cheat a little bit and stick something under the front here just to elevate the board a little bit. Elevating the board will give me a little bit more of an angle. Okay. I set the hot air to 250, so it's not a temperature that will melt things, but it just means that the micro pencil then has, collectively there's enough power between the micro pencil and the hot air to make the connections come up real nice. Particularly those ground ones. I know I'm a little out of focus, I'm sorry. Okay, there's one pin there that doesn't have a good connection. Build it on, it's called flux. And it allows the solder and the connections to come together better. Without flux, you won't generally get solder to stick to the metal properly because of the oxidation on the metal. That's fixed. Hi, Catherine. Good to see you. So that's the easy side done. As I said before, the hard side is this camera one. Frustratingly difficult. Is there a Joe Jenkins in chat by chance? Somebody just bought a copy of Flexboard View. Thank you very much. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Really got to get my angles right here. What doesn't help is that the flux, it's it has a fairly aggressive optical refractory angle. What do they call it? And so you don't really know where you're sticking your pencil. Okay, they're all shonky. Now we'll get a little bit more fresh flux and then come in with the hot air. Hey Greg, how's it going? I just realised I missed to see if Wayne spoke back to me. Hey Fred Mitty. Let's see here. Wayne, did you... Warren. Yep. Alright, here we go. So we've got our hot air. Again, it's not so hot that it melts stuff, but it is hot enough that it helps me get these things connected. Ah, damn it. I touched the side of the connector with the soldering iron, which means now it's going to have a solder imprint on it. There's a few bridges there. Can be a little bit tricky getting the bridges off this, because what will happen is they tend to form up with the brass side. Okay, I think that cleared. Funnily enough, I didn't have to clear that one because that's all one rail anyway. Oh well. It is tedious, it is annoying, it does test your patience, but the alternative is to do the reflow method where you cook it from the other side, but I don't like doing that. It really does put too much stress on the RAM and the board. Patience is definitely your best tool in this case. Hey Jose Campos, how's it going? And you're from New York City, you'd think you'd be supporting the other New Yorker. Then again, maybe New Yorkers don't support New Yorkers. I don't know, what's the rules? Or what are the rules, rather, not what's the... Yeah, Basil, yep, I had a haircut. Alita was actually the one that just chopped off my ponytail and then gave it a clean. Steve, I'm gonna pretend I didn't see that. Otherwise, YouTube's gonna just keep demonetizing me at this rate. Okay, see we've got a bridge there. Really easy to spot from the side, not so easy to spot from above. So, okay, that's pins 4th and 5th. I suspect they are on the same rail, but we'll still clear it anyway. Okay, that 342 pin is looking a bit weak to me, so we'll try and boost that up. Everything else looks good though, but yeah, the 342 and the one to its right, they need a little bit more love and care. It was getting a bit too constrictive, Basil. Yeah, ponytails do put a fair bit of weight on your neck. And I mean, yeah, unless it's essential for your really good looks, then I can understand people getting rid of them. Although I still like the look of them on people. Okay, that's finally cleared. Damn it, I had to go and try and fix that up and I made a mess of it now. It's better. Of course you did, Steve, of course you did. What else could you possibly have been referring to? I can't think of anything. Sorry about all that. That was just a bit out of control. So these 3 pins here, they really need some love and care. So we'll try and see if we can spruce them up a bit, get a little bit more of a fillet on those pins. Martina, you're going bald by your... I have a friend from school who unfortunately suffered that as well. I guess there's not much you can do, but yeah, you sort of own it and make it an advantage. As long as you don't go all George Costanza-like on it. I guess that's what everyone's worried about. Okay, so I'm happy with the fillet on the 342. I just want to... Okay, that's a good fillet now too on the other one. And, okay. Why did I do that? Okay, fillet is back. Certainly better than it was before. Oh, Martin, you're 60 now. Okay, so you had like 35 odd years. Yep. I know I'm getting a little, thin up top, but nothing too bad yet. At some point it will happen, I dare say. The board got too cold. And all the flux simply just became like jelly, solidified. Obviously this is going to go into the ultrasonic cleaner, so this is merely so that I can test it and get a pretty good idea if it's working or not. Okay. For this I need to use the battery. I have to be able to verify that it is actually charging. Oh, sorry computer. Crikey. Almost ran over the screen. That would have been a catastrophic event for the night, and I would have cried. Big splashy man tears all over the screen. not dainty little things. Solid, real travesty type tears. Tears that make you have tears. You think, oh, that poor man. To have tears like that, it must be something truly terrible. I feel bad for him. I'm going to cry too. Alright, so here we go. Connect up. Oh, we've got green light, got power up, fan going, good. So we'll now see if we get a blinking. Just realised it doesn't really show up so well on this. I'm sorry about that, due to the lighting. Okay, so we've got a green blink, that's good. Now we look at the power consumption. And we can see we're doing 1 amp, which is sort of implies that it's mostly charged. It runs without the battery, so that's good. Oh, sorry, it runs with the battery only, without the power. Everything's backwards tonight. It must be the Australian effect kicking in. Now what we'll try to do is actually shut it down. Now there's 2 sets of pads there. I've got to make sure I get the right pair, because if I get the wrong pair, I'll have no hair. So I want R5116, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Okay. So it's these two here. Okay, so it powers off properly. See if we can get it back up. Power comes up good. So I think that pretty much was the primary fault. I'd say what happened here is that there was originally a bad lot of liquid damage around that connector. It was cleaned up. They tried to replace the connector, but it didn't quite go how they wanted. And there was, with those pins floating around, that would have caused trouble. Have a look at what those pins might have been. Let's see, schematic. So I mean, a great majority of those are ground, but then we've got this speaker amp. This BB5 VSO alternate audio low dropout enable, audio power enable, external USB. I'd be honest, and I'm kind of surprised. I wouldn't really have pinned any of those to cause it. USB 3 external, USB... None of those should have caused the SMC issues. These two could have, but they seem to be okay. Like if either of these two weren't properly connected, they could have been giving grief, being that they're the clock and data line. Is this one wire? Yeah, not sure. I should have checked that more extensively. It is working now though. We'll plug it in, put the boot stick in it and see how it goes. Okay. I'm just going to read the actual fault card on that. So 366. Charge via DC power supply will charge, but randomly stops. Power button also doesn't work. Alright. Computer won't boot up again unless you pull the battery. Alright, okay, so we didn't actually test it that way. Replace the connector for the DC flex. It needs a tray. Okay, so I'm assuming you meant that as opposed to that, because that doesn't look like it. Yeah. Alright. So we'll put it in the board and see if it actually does exhibit that same behavior. We have to test it by... okay, so what we need to do test is we shut it down with the battery connected and then try and restart. Yep, Paul's brain is slowing up a little, folks. I mean, it is 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, Pernov? Yeah, actually, I thought... yeah, Pernov was here earlier. Yeah. He's probably just got more important things to do right now. He's got to catch up with Elon Musk. Yes, that's right, Barry. Tested to my standards. Speaking of which, I had a... does anyone remember that 11-inch MacBook Air I had? The one that had all that liquid damage and we had to replace the keyboard, fix the main board. Yeah, the liquid was everywhere. The battery. Anyway, the trackpad was a little tight for the person, and so they went to the Apple store to get it sort of readjusted. And then they also said that they had audio issues, which I was kind of surprised about because I do test that. But it might have been the microphone socket side, the DC inboard in this case. But it was interesting that the report that came back from Apple is that it must have been a non-genuine DC inboard port. And I'm like, well, that can't happen. No one produces DC inboards other than Apple. The battery did come up as non-genuine, but that was expected because it was an aftermarket battery. But they said to the person it took over an hour to do the audio test, and I'm like, what? So that's something you just do in like a few seconds one way or another. But what I'm suspecting is that they did an ASD test, and of course that would take perhaps up to an hour if they do the full extensive complete test on it. It irritates me a little bit because basically the Apple Store is doing their best in this case to try and instill distrust in the work that was done. Anyway, chances are I'd say that the DC inboard must have had a little bit of extra corrosion in it somewhere and I didn't pick it up. That's my bad for not extra checking that, and I will just have to either fix it or replace it or whatever and then send it back to the customer, assuming they send it back up to me. Hey, Uncode. It just frustrates me a little bit the way that some of the Apple stores will do that. They will, not tell the truth very well. They'll lay the blame very strongly on the fact that it might have been a third party, when really they could have just been honest and said, well, it looks like the DC inboard is corroded and needs to be replaced, and okay, it's not a genuine battery, but it is actually working. Their report was it not functioning properly, which probably means it didn't report back the correct CRC or something like that for the serial number. Because the customer even said, they said, the battery charges fine, it runs fine, is there going to be a problem? And I was like, well, I can't see so. I said, but I'll check it. I will check it and I will verify one way or another. I got a cough just now. Must be the dust I got from last night. Fur babies are all good, yep. Or at least I hope they are. What's the new thought on the MacBook Silicon? Well, yeah, I'm still waiting for the test results to come back in, but yeah, my initial view still seems to be standing in part. That is, that I feel like it is going to be a very nice package. It's going to work very well for people who stay within the confines of what Apple wants them to do. Why didn't anyone tell me that I was... Damn it. No, overhead. But and I have started to see some compile statistics coming out for the WebKit compile. So it is going to be very curious to see what they've done, how it goes. It's going to be interesting to see where the weak points are on the M1, because I still do not believe that Apple has managed to create a chip that is in the order of a magnitude faster or more efficient than what Intel and AMD are producing at the moment. There's got to be something missing that it's not handling to be able to be a 15-watt chip that supposedly is competing with a 100 or 150-watt chip. Yeah, if they were, say, if it was like they got it down to 50 watts even, I would sort of go, maybe they came up with something really good there. You have bare new silicon, things like that. But a magnitude, that's kind of, there's got to be something not being done there. There's something that we're not testing yet that it can't do. Okay, what am I supposed to be testing here? Okay, so I was right about the battery. It's sitting at 99%. So we disconnect and that's fine. And we shut down. Because it would be a truly extraordinary thing for Apple to have produced an ARM-based chip that is as good as i5, i9, Ryzen 3000 or whatever series. I'm not saying that from the fact that I can't believe Apple could do it in terms of they can't be that smart, but rather from the fact that there's been no lead up to there's been no indications of astounding new discoveries on how to generate silicon or CPUs with new gates or something like that that can make a magnitude of improvement one way or another. So now I'm waiting to see how it pans out. Like I said, my stance is there's something we're missing, but at the same time that if you stay within the confines of the package, it's going to be great anyway. Alright, right, so now we need to see if this starts up again. Seems like we may actually have that problem. Alright, so it is not starting from the battery, so let's have a look at the voltages, see what our G3 hot and PP bus and all that sort of stuff is like. I mean, that's the other thing. Everybody manipulates the figures to make their new product look good. That's marketing. If they didn't do that, then it wouldn't be. Yeah, you'd be wondering what the hell is their marketing team doing. Oh no, we decided we'd be honest this time around. You're like, yeah, something went wrong there. Someone stopped drinking Kool-Aid. But like I said, it's the whole magnitude thing. Am I on voltage? Just got to check that I'm on voltage before I stab this thing. 8.4. I mean, that's with the battery, so that's not a problem. I'll see if I can start it. It could be a case of this. There was liquid damage on the board, so it could actually just be a bad keyboard here. So let's stab the dragon and see what happens. Yeah, it's a bad keyboard because it's now spun up, so that's the problem, the keyboard. Or a bad trackpad, or something with the signal coming from that on-off button to this connector here. Steve K, got to get bigclive.com to ultraviolate your channel. What? Oh, please no. He'll probably rip me to pieces. You know, I can't have my smoke screen interfered with. Right, now I'll just say what I was just double checking there. That is, it started from the contacts, so yeah, it's likely a keyboard replacement. I'll check with the person if they want me to replace that keyboard or whether they want to do it themselves. Let's check the trackpad. Sometimes you get lucky and there's a nice chunk of corrosion on here that you can go, yep, that's a trackpad. Okay, let's check the actual flex. It's amazing how many times you forget to check the flex and it ends up being the fault. Okay, that one actually seems fine. I mean, it's a little bit like someone's been tweezering at this, which I hate. Yeah, they sort of like do this, they like use the tweezers. That's why I take the battery out on these 1466s, because when you take the battery out, all you have to do then is flip the lid and take it out. See if there's any defects on that flex. I can't see any. Yeah, sometimes you can see pitting from junk, grains of sand and stuff. I mean, it is possible that damage there, but the on-off pins, the keyboard on and off, are these two here, which is over here. I suppose we'll test it anyway. Hello, Ho Fun Chung. I probably said that name completely wrong, but I have no reference to work by. Hey, Mike Summerside. Oh, the blue and white ones, yeah, they're terrible. Okay. Come on, in you go. Get in. Is the microscope camera doing alright tonight? I haven't heard any complaints about the tearing, so I'm assuming that it's okay. As I was saying the other night, Apple has timed it very well to bring out this type of product, this M1 product, because the general standards surrounding things like videos, audio, web, all that kind of thing are now fairly mature. So because we have mature standards, you can generate silicon that processes that data natively as a ASIC or whatever. Whereas previously, because everything was changing so much, you wanted a general purpose CPU so that you can just simply make the software do the encoding, decoding, whatever you want for you. So yeah, by the fact that the standards have matured and that the ARM architecture, or the chips that Apple are making, are pretty good performers, they tie it together, and also we've got high-speed disk storage, NVMe's or whatever they're using. RAM's been pretty good for a while now. Graphics is pretty good. So it's all sort of matured very nicely, and now we have this M1 laptop scenario. And I think they wouldn't have been able to do this sort of thing 10 years ago. Certainly other people have tried, and you can't think really off the top of your head of any other pre-existing ARM-based laptop that actually has made an impact in a good way. Most of the time, all the previous ARM-based laptops that we had were always very lackluster at the best. I mean, the best thing we pretty much had was the Raspberry Pi, and that was, even that's a little bit weak at times. Okay, so it's not the Flex. When are you going to get the Paul Daniels School of MacBook Repair? Never. Oh no. I pity the poor people that decide to take that career path of being like a electronics design school or any soldering school or anything like that. I guess some people are just born for that. Some people love that sort of thing, and they don't mind every day going into a classroom and teaching people. That's their thing. For me, no, I couldn't handle it. Keyboard. Do I have a 1466 keyboard? I mean, I do, but who am I kidding? Of course I've got 1466 keyboards. What sort of lame MacBook repair person would not have replacement 1466 boards? You know, it's even easier. Just put it into another chassis and test it. Speaking of screens, Steve, I was looking at the 49-inch double wide 2K screen. So basically they'll what is it? It's 1920 and 1920. What's that? 38 whatever by 1440. So it'd be basically 2560 plus 2560 by 1440. So it'd be like having two two iMac 27-inch screens side by side, but connected as a single unit. I was thinking, yeah, that's actually pretty tempting. That's $1,800, and I don't have $1,800, particularly not since burning money at the moment with the home loan scenario. I had to walk down to the bank today and hand over a fat wad of cash to them. It was quite painful because I've been stashing that cash, and today I had to go to the bank and say, here you go, and they just sort of took it and stuck it in their machine, and 20 seconds later it's like, thank you, Mr. Daniels, and I'm like, that just didn't feel very fair. It's like blood, sweat and tears to get that money, and you just put it into the bank in 20 seconds. Okay, so here's my spare chassis. AJ, I would not swear too much in the honest. Too much. Yeah, Tom Love, saw that. I got the message from Jason. He's been meaning to for a while, and I kept harassing him. I'm sure many other people did too. But I think it was about 24 hours ago now, or something around that he messaged me and said he finally did it. He wasn't overly happy about the quality of the video. You know, he did want to do something a bit better, but it's a bit of a return to YouTube icebreaker for him, so for that I'm glad he's done it. He is extremely busy though. You don't hear from him much, you know, he doesn't participate in the forums or anything like that, but he is very busy all the time. Whereas you get other people, myself included, who probably waste half their day talking absolute trash on Facebook or Discord or YouTube. Whereas Jason, he just gets down and gets to work, while the rest of us waffle off like trying to justify our sense of self-importance. It's like, ooh, look at me, I'm a famous MacBook person. Ooh. As Jason's just like, I'm busy, I'm making money, go away. As soon as I press that power button, its fan is spinning, so yeah, it's definitely the keyboard at fault. I think when he talks about quality, I guess he's referring to more like the style of the content as opposed to the rendering quality. I suspect that's what you were also saying. Andrew Hughes, you've got a 30-inch 2560 1600. Oh, okay, that's an even higher aspect, or squarer aspect. I've got the 27-inch iMac for my programming machine. It's the 2013 edition. I like the machine. I like the screen on it. It's probably the only gloss screens that I like. For all other screens, I buy matte finish screens. Hey, Andrew Hurst. My biggest problem is I don't have a machine that's powerful enough to run, the double wide 2K. And I won't be using it here on this workshop because I really need more of a completely different orientation. Alright, so we know we've fixed the main board, but we just have to decide whether we're going to replace that keyboard or not. But won't be able to find that out now. I'll check that tomorrow. PC Quad HD are more than what you want to pay. Quad HD or 2K or at least these days we have a very broad range of resolutions and sizes available. I mean, do people remember back when you had 1024 768, or if you were rich you got 1280 1024, and if you stepped outside of those ranges, those resolutions, you basically would spend half a week trying to get Windows to work with it, or even worse, Linux to work with it, because X decided that it doesn't like the feel of this screen. And if you're really unlucky, X would then destroy your graphics card and screen. But you told me to run at that rate of resolution. My bad if it blew up your screen. Destroying screens was a legitimate thing with CRT monitors for a while. If you got the mode lines wrong in the X setup, your monitor would become an X monitor. My very first screen was a Hercules screen, and what was that? The Hercules resolution was something like 720 by... I can't quite remember now, but it was a nice resolution. It was certainly vastly better than using CGA. CGA was just terrible. Even EGA was dubious. VGA was when they finally started to get things together, but it wasn't until we got to 800 by 600 or 1024 768 that things finally were becoming usable. Prior to that, I was pretty much never happy with anything because I got spoiled at university where they had these whopping great big, I can't remember, I think they're like 22 or 24 inch grayscale X terminals, and those things were beautiful. To this day, really, I haven't had a chance to sit at a screen that has quite that pin precise resolution. What the advantage was with those is that because they were grayscale, then every dot was a pixel, so you didn't have your RGB combination, so you had no fringing, you had nothing. It was just pristine, beautiful grey. I can't remember what they were, but they were for a digital system. I don't know if it was a DEC, but ever since I got spoiled by those, I've never been completely happy with screens. Let's see if I can find... I doubt there's even anything on Google about those. The Atari monochrome monitors, I remember them. Used to sell those when I was at Richard Smith's store. Can't say the proper name. The Weiss VT100s. Yeah, we did have the Weiss VT100s, and we had a few other similar terminals. Everything was connected with phone cables, like, just 4-core telecom cable running at 9600 if you're lucky. Yeah, exactly, Christian. Yeah, everything. It was just so crisp and nice. I'm just trying to see if I can actually even find them. I wish I could remember what size they were. That would help me reduce the search parameters. Let's see, schematic. I'm pretty sure 24-inch monochrome DEC grayscale terminal. Try and correct me on my spelling. How dare you? no. Well, that's no good. I suppose I shouldn't say monochrome and grayscale. Let's see. Unix, old, large grayscale monitors. CRT monitor. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It was only like the mid-90s. ViewSonic to be the most reliable. Maybe the old ones. The new ones I've found to be... they're just more like rebadged generics. Well, this is bad because definitely nothing like what I'm remember. I can't find it. Unix. Maybe someone can help me at some point. But yeah, they were X terminals. X terminal. Z100. Okay, will do. And they're quite quite threatening in some ways, the screens, because they were that big that when you're leaning back and you're worried they'll fall on you. Z100 screen. Well, this is just gonna suck. I remember at the university at the time they had this setup where they had 3 or 4 monitors all mixed around, and they were showing how on their terminal system they can just, you know, move the mouse across them all as if it was single. So I mean, they had that way back in the early 90s, and before that, for that matter. Do you remember the size? It would have been, it could have been as high as 27 inch, but I don't think really CRTs got to that size. So the largest color one I had was a Trinitron. What's this? You had a 55 inch full high definition CRT. Seriously? Crikey. 27 inch grayscale CRT. Okay, Z100 terminal monitor. Okay, Z100 terminal mon. I should just cut paste that. And I keep coming up with really ancient stuff. It wasn't that ancient. Hey, wait, what? Let's see. 24 inch grey scale X terminal. Maybe I should just keep putting in different numbers. You see, multi-scan G500, but that's color one. And I should actually put X11. I think I'm going to be doomed to not... Oh wait, what's this? Ah, that's color. Considering Google can work out what I am looking for in shopping before I even start browsing, the fact that they can't find the screen that I'm looking for is... it's disappointing. Grayscale. What do you got there? NCD 88K. Let's see if it's that. NCD 88K X terminal. Certainly, yeah, we're getting close. Again, that's color, that one. DEC VT520. DEC VT520. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. Except well, that's only 14 inch. That's tiny compared to what I had. I think I'm going to give up. I might contact some of the people that I knew from that department back then. But I just remember them being colossally large screens, exceptionally high resolution. We were doing all our graphics course on it. And the graphics course was, well, we ended up having to make or write our own 3D manipulation software. So we were given a file for either Snoopy or a teapot in 3D mesh, and then we had to write a user interface system and all the primitives so that we could scale, rotate, shear, zoom, render, either using Phong or Garad, and then also later on do ray tracing on it. And that was just third year computer graphics project. There's a lot of C programming, and that was done all over these distributed terminal systems with goodness knows what back end it was. I don't know if it was a DEC back end or HP. I can't remember. Yeah, monochrome. Yep. I did have 17 inches back then at some point, but these were much bigger than 17. These were genuinely scary screens for the fact that if you lean back and pulled down on, you'd be in big trouble. I remember them being definitely in the 20-inch range. I was not a little boy then. I was in my 20s. Definitely not a little boy. I was half the age that I am now. Yeah, and the resolution was like in the, I don't know if it was in the 2K by 2K sort of range, but it was up and around that. I remember they cost the university an absolute fortune. High resolution, grayscale. Maybe I should spell it the American way. Grayscale CRT for Unix terminals. The internet is trying to forget that it was young and limited at that point, I think. Oh well. Well, we're going to leave it at that. It's getting late. Time for me to pack it up, head to sleep. So thank you very much for watching, and realize we didn't really do a massive amount. We just did that one connector to replace, and obviously the keyboard is at fault for the other aspects. The connector fault would have been causing the intermittent type failure shutdown, but definitely the, actually maybe it even wasn't. Maybe the power button is in itself slightly intermittent, and just every now and then decides to press down. But that connector obviously had to be replaced. There was no question about it, and we've done that. So we'll give it a clean tomorrow and put it all back together, find out if they want a new keyboard. Otherwise, if they don't, just pack it and ship it back. We're all done. Okay, I'm out of here. Thank you very much. And sorry, John, I've got to go because it's 1:30 in the morning and I am tired. So I'll see you all maybe tomorrow, see what the postman brings, and we'll catch up with you then. Until then, you'll take care. I'll see you later.